There is something strange that happens as you grow older. At some point, music does not destroy you the way it used to. A sad song is still sad, but it no longer feels like the end of the world. A crush is still exciting, but it does not completely take over your nervous system. An argument still hurts, but you do not always feel like your entire identity is collapsing. And one day, you realize something uncomfortable. Maybe you did not become boring. Maybe your brain just became better at controlling the storm. When people say the brain fully matures at 25, that is a simplification. It does not mean you wake up on your 25th birthday as a complete adult. Brain development is gradual. Different systems mature at different speeds. But there is a useful idea behind that phrase. The parts of the brain involved in planning, self-control, long-term thinking, and emotional regulation continue developing well into young adulthood. And one of the most important regions involved in this is the prefrontal cortex. You can think of the prefrontal cortex as one of the brain's control systems. It helps you pause before reacting. It helps you imagine consequences. It helps you delay pleasure. It helps you choose what matters later over what feels good right now. But during adolescence, this control system is still under construction. Meanwhile, the emotional and reward systems of the brain are already very loud. That is part of why teenage feelings can feel so massive. Not fake, not dramatic for no reason, massive. A song can feel like it was written specifically to break your heart. A text message can change your whole day. A rejection can feel permanent. A crush can feel almost chemical. Because in a way, it is. The emotional brain is pressing the gas pedal. But the system that helps with braking, steering, and long-term planning is still learning how to drive. That is why teenagers are not simply irrational. They are often living with a brain where emotion arrives faster than regulation. This also explains why it can be unfair to expect very young children to behave like tiny adults. A baby is not refusing to regulate themselves. A toddler is not calmly deciding to be unreasonable. Their brain simply does not yet have the full hardware for adult-level self-control. You can teach them gently. You can build routines. You can create safety. But expecting a very young child to have perfect focus, perfect patience, or perfect emotional control is like asking a phone with 2% battery to run a movie studio. The system is not ready yet. Human beings are unusual because our prefrontal cortex is so developed compared with many other animals. That is part of what allows us to plan for years, to sacrifice now for later, to follow rules that are not immediately rewarding, to build careers, families, cities, religions, companies, and 5-year plans we will probably abandon in 3 weeks. But this gift has a cost. The same brain region that helps you become responsible also makes life feel less simple. A dog can be happy because the walk is happening now. A child can cry like the universe has ended because the ice cream fell. But an adult is often doing something much stranger. Thinking about taxes while eating dinner, feeling guilty while resting, planning tomorrow while today is still happening. That is adulthood. More control, more planning, more distance between the feeling and the action, and sometimes less intensity. This is why growing up can feel like losing something. You become calmer but less easily amazed, more stable but less overwhelmed by beauty, more responsible but less possessed by the moment. The fire did not disappear completely. The brain just built more walls around it. And history shows how important the frontal lobes are to personality and control. In the 20th century, there was a deeply controversial surgery called prefrontal lobotomy, or leucotomy. It involved damaging connections in the frontal parts of the brain. At the time, it was used for severe psychiatric illness, before modern psychiatric medications were widely available. But it could also cause serious changes in personality, motivation, and emotional life. Today, it is remembered as one of the darkest chapters in the history of psychiatry. That history reminds us of something important. The front of the brain is not just a boring logic machine. It is part of what makes you, you. Your ability to care about the future, to hold back a cruel sentence, to stay with a difficult task, to not be completely ruled by every passing feeling. So maybe becoming an adult is not simply becoming dull. Maybe it is the slow construction of an inner brake system. As children, we feel before we understand. As teenagers, we feel with terrifying volume. As adults, we learn to place a little space between the feeling and the reaction. And that space can feel like numbness sometimes. But it can also be freedom, because not every emotion deserves to become a decision. Not every impulse deserves your life. And not every fading intensity means something is wrong with you. Maybe you are not losing your ability to feel. Maybe your brain is learning how to carry feelings without being carried away by them.